Thanks everyone for joining BDR Best Practices Episode 6. On this episode, Scott and I are going to talk about subject lines. Obviously, when you send an email, the most important part of that email is the actual content in it. But if the subject line doesn't hit, if the subject line doesn't catch their eye, that email might never get opened. So we're going to share a couple tips on the subject lines we use and the strategy we use to make sure our emails get open. With that, I'm going to send it over to Portugal, to my man Scott.
I know, can you believe it? European edition of BDR Best Practices out here in Porto. It's great to be here, but this one is one I wanted to do for a little while because I spoke to a sales leader whose SDR's average open rate was 10%. That the team was putting together these beautifully written emails, finding the perfect contacts, and 9 out of every 10 of them wasn't even getting opened. So I think this is such an important tool when it comes to being a BDR. So it's important to do some homework, right? Find things that are going to appeal to them. Personalize with an S or a Z. It's up to you if you decide what you want to use there. But mention previous companies, mention previous projects. If they've shared things on their social accounts, whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook even, these are things they're proud about, and it's things that are going to capture their attention and be top of mind when you use it in a subject line. So whether that's a sports team, certain players like Milivojevic that play for their team, and even like kind of job vacancies. I often use job vacancies because it in the job specs it will often mention who the role will report to. Mouthful. And so you can go to that person and say, hey, I noticed you're hiring for a field marketer, whatever it might be. But these are things that are top of mind and projects that they're working on. And then, of course, the classic, we work with competitor X or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and then just following what Scott said about like doing your homework and everything, it's also super important, right, that each subject line makes an impact. You only have so many characters before it becomes a run-on sentence, and you can't even see the full subject line in the inbox. That's not what you want. You want quick words, short words that are going to make some kind of an impact. A tactic I love to do is put the person's name, right? So Scott, and then question for you. And then have that first line of the sentence be, hey, Scott, question for you. Are you looking to, drive more leads? Are you looking to close deals faster? Whatever you're selling, make that the hook. Then go into your pitch, because chances are, if you see in your inbox question for you, I know for me, that would give me anxiety. I'd be like, oh God, who's got another question for me? But, you're opening that email. And at the end of the day, that's the main goal of the subject line, right? Is to get you to open that email.
Definitely. I think all the subject lines we've got in this are well under 7 words. Often 3 words I think is great. And there are lots of statistics around the less words you use, the better. So definitely consider that. Now, this is kind of more, again, to kind of touch on personal side, but some different approaches you might be able to take. If you've spoken with a colleague who's referred to them as Scotty or Jim or whatever it might be, use that name in your outreach. If you notice that they're from another country or that their mother tongue is not English or whatever language you're prospecting in, use that. Google Translate is brilliant. Just a quick little phrase. I think benvenuto a casa supposedly means rise above the noise, which is what I typed in. And then using puns, using jokes. I won't make a pun midway through this sentence was probably one of the highlights of my career so far. I spoke to the lady on the phone and she said, oh, you're that guy who's using my name in the subject lines, right? And it sticks in people's memories. And obviously there's a line, you don't want to cross that line. And sometimes it's a bit of a thin line and you're not too sure where it is, but I think it's always worth taking risks with your subject lines because you might, rub someone up the wrong way eventually, but if it doubles your response rates or doubles your open rates, it's well worth doing.
And then, just touching upon how Scott mentioned, right, like Scotty, Jimmy, whatever, a great place to find this is on LinkedIn. If you scroll to the bottom, past colleagues might have given them recommendations, and they usually use their, the name they go by. If a prospect's name is Daniel, I go on his LinkedIn, I see people call him Danny. Just calling him Danny, right? Like all of a sudden he's like, oh, okay, this guy might know me, or he at least did his homework. So
sure, 100%.
And speaking of doing your homework, find out their hobbies, right? Find out their interests. Look on LinkedIn, look on Twitter. Maybe 10 years ago, if you wanted more information on someone, you go to the phone book. But in today's day and age, you go to social media. If it's public for a reason. As you can see on the bottom, right? I had a prospect who was a Yankees fan. I know the Indians just swept the Yankees, so I talked about it, right? He was a CMO. Who knows if I put his company and the Yankees next to each other, it grabbed his attention. Eamon and the boys, right? That was a Scott's prospect who played in a beer league soccer or an old men's soccer league, and Scott found out the name of his team. Like, there's no way that email's not getting open when he sees it in his inbox, right? Now, if the value of your email after that is trash, you're not going to get a response. But at least you could say, hey, I shot my best shot, rather than, like Scott said, talking to teams that 9 out of 10 of their emails don't get open. Like, how are you ever going to create a pipeline if 1 out of 10 of your emails is only getting open?
I think it's so apparent how so many of these subject lines just have nothing to do with the content of the email, right? You know, in some cases you'll refer to it, like you mentioned the Yankees game, but in so many cases you just talk about the value proposition and their job role and what you can bring to the table, and you don't even refer to the subject line. It's literally just for the purpose of when that email pings up in their laptop, pings up on their phone, what's going to make them click. So just try and think about that, I guess. And then, yeah, I guess that kind of ties in with some other approaches you might be able to take in order to achieve that. So if there's certain keywords that are reoccurring in their, social accounts and stuff like that, using that in a 3/ method, Jimmy, I remember you actually shared that one with me. Typing their name in lowercase or having the whole subject line in lowercase, it looks more like a typed message on your iPhone or whatever when there's no capital letter at the start of the name, because if it was automated, it would be generating that capital letter, right? And then emojis, love them or hate them. They're a bit of a controversial topic, but loads of statistics around how they do generate higher engagement. And if we're sending a wine voucher on a Friday, there's no way I'm not going to be sticking a little wine emoji on the end of that, because again, it just kind of brings a bit of fun to it. It shows that I'm here to kind of, be a bit creative, which is what we try and do. And yeah, why not, to be honest? So
Have you ever used that spaghetti emoji before?
I use the spaghetti emoji all the time. If I'm sending Uber Eats, it's always going. I feel like the books and the spaghetti is a nice combination, because I'll send them an article and then they get to enjoy the Uber Eats. It makes perfect sense.
I love spaghetti. It's been too long.
So we're going to do the next best practices on Jimmy's favorite meals. But until then, hopefully that was helpful. Loads of creative ideas. And in all honesty, just take some risks with your subject lines. Like I said, you might rub someone off the wrong way eventually, but if it doubles your response rates, doubles your open rates, it's a no-brainer. So hopefully that was helpful, and over to Jim for the end.
Yeah, with that, he's Scott in Portugal. I'm Jimmy here in New York, and until next time.
Till next time. I feel like I'm out of jokes as well.
I got jokes for days. I got jokes for days.